Merry Christmas, you bastards!
And a Happy New Year!
Hope you had an amazing time during the holidays, and thanks for checking today's video, where we will take a look at Arcane Mage, what changed from patch 8.0 going into Tides of Vengeance. Spoiler alerts, not much changed, and that's actually overstating it. I will quickly glance over the changes and talk a bit about Arcane and how the spec looks from the eyes of a noob. In terms of spells and talents, we didn't get anything new, just a tooltip update. The Azurite Traits Anomalous Impact has been replaced. As with all specs, one trait will be replaced by a new one. Usually the trait replaced is the least used or least interesting trait. I haven't played Arcane in 8.1, and all my friends were either playing Frost or Fire. Maybe you guys that dabbled into the world of the underdogs can shed some light on this trait. Was it good? Was it ever used? It looks boring from the perspective of a non-mage, and we have indirectly petitioned to get rid of the boring traits. Hit the comment section with your thoughts on this change. Going forward, the replacement for Anomalous Impact is Equipoise. When you're above 70% mana, Arcane Blast deals additional damage. When you're below 70% mana, it has its cost reduced. The concept of the trait is interesting in itself. However, I don't know how this will play out on the long run. For you guys who haven't played Arcane yet, which statistically means 99% of you, the idea of the spec is that you need to manage mana during your rotation. To understand the rotation, you just need to take a look at Arcane Blast. A simple spell, no travel time, deals damage and generates an arcane charge up to a maximum of 4 charges. Each charge increases the damage of Arcane Blast by a significant amount, increases the mana cost by 100%, and reduces its cast time. Constantly spamming Arcane Blast at max charges will deal insane amounts of damage, but also burn your mana really quick. This phase is called the burn phase, and you usually do it when your cooldowns are up, mainly arcane power. In your downtime, you need to manage your mana by smartly consuming your charges with Arcane Barrage and using Evocation, if you need to. As such, Equipoise complements the playstyle. The rotating mechanic that gives your spell a different effect based on your resource quantity is interesting, but the implementation of this current one is actually really boring. It doesn't change the playstyle, it just adds upon it. This isn't bad, but I would have liked to see this as an inner trait or something secondary, but alas, we take what we can get. Aside from this, the trait Brainstorm has been buffed. On top of its effect of increasing your intellect, it will now give you 2 arcane charges as well. A nice addition, but I would actually like to know if you guys think it's good enough. And the reason I'm saying this is because the overall presence of Arcane Mage in the game. Looking at Warcraft logs, Arcane seems to be constantly at the bottom of the barrel. The amount of changes Arcane received is frighteningly low, and this is coming from someone who doesn't play Mage at all. I have been blissfully ignorant because my specs were always at the top of the meters, so never actually realized what would mean if I was playing the lowest of the low. Now, there will always be a bottom of the barrel. In an ideal world, the bottom should change based on the encounter, with the idea that each spec has its niche, each spec has its place. In the last few weeks, all I have seen is Arcane Mage and Marksmanship Hunter hitting the bottom of the meters. I personally always liked the fantasy of Arcane. I usually tend to like the Underdog Specs. One, because not a lot of people play them, and I feel special if I do. And 2, if I can actually perform with an Underdog Spec, it blows people's mind, and that idea of crushing a misplaced mindset is something I like to do. Plus it makes me feel special. It's a challenge to perform higher than expectations when you're playing a weaker spec, and that's also a bonus in my book. Don't get me wrong, all the logs and all the performance analysis you've seen here or on Warcraft logs is usually taken from the best of the best, and I personally have seen Arcane Mages deal more damage than the other 2 specs. It's a lot harder, it's not as efficient, but being the bottom of the barrel doesn't mean you will be at the bottom of the meters. I say this because I'm constantly playing other classes to see if I can find something interesting to main. I haven't played this many different specs since Legion, and obviously a lot has changed since then. As such, my perspective is that of a new player checking out a spec to see if it's good. I like the idea of Arcane, the burn phase and the conserve phase. I like the idea of mana actually being relevant. It feels fresh and, however funny this sounds, a little bit old school, which is a plus in my book. I'm a bit worried about the overall performance though, but since I won't be raiding hardcore anytime soon, that doesn't bother me too much. Community perception is something I am used to by now, so that's also not an issue. Giving my 2 cents here, I actually expect changes to Arcane alongside marksmanship and other similar specs. These type of specs for classes that just have DPS orientations, might be left behind because you always have an option to switch to Fire or Beastmaster, which might explain why they haven't been properly addressed so far. I am hoping to see changes soon, hopefully before 8.2, but we'll see. What do you guys think? I would love to know if you've been playing Arcane so far and what your thoughts are on the subject. This was a little bit of a shorter video since there wasn't much to talk about and I actually still want to test Arcane in some proper content. Lower eye levels don't offer much in the ways of testing since fights are too quick, and the prolonged duration encounter might offer more insight on the spec since mana management stands at its core. Thanks for sticking around and watching the video. Hope it was useful in whatever minimal way this time around. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Enjoy the rest of the holidays, New Year's and all that. Love you, peace.